Woo! What up, podcast peeps out there? Appreciate you for joining us on this great Wednesday afternoon, or whenever you watch and listen to the podcast, which a lot of you are doing now. We appreciate that. My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. I am Brendan Reed. Dan Schalk is over there, and he's liking the numbers from our podcast last week. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. I mean, fantastic numbers with this last week, and we can see that we're growing, and I think it's just going to continue moving forward. So, thank you to all of our listeners out there, watchers, and let's keep it coming. I think that's a good shirt to wear after Election Day yesterday, Brandon, and I'm ready to move forward.
There you go, right there. Only vote in my heart was Pedro. So yeah, appreciate you guys, man. I enjoyed seeing even more interaction because the mailbag bag swelled quite a bit this week too, right, Dan?
Yeah. Some of it, if you listen to previous shows, we enjoy the hate mail. Add some substance to that hate mail, but keep it coming. We like to air it out every week on the My Fantasy Podcast. So we love the mailbag, and make sure you hit us up on Facebook. Just find us, My Fantasy Sports Talk. Twitter at My Fantasy Sports Talk. I'm at FF Sports Talk, and Brandon's at new_breed because he is the new breed. But get your questions to us in all sorts of ways. We've had some mailbags this week. Wanted to make sure how they could find us. So hit us up on all social media or just regular email, website. You know where to find us now.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to say about the new people that submitted questions, we do have a new writer or submitter of a question, or probably even a new watcher to the podcast this week. So saying, hey, I just watched for the first time last week. So appreciate that, and you're going to get your question read right here today. We got it right here in front of us, and we're going to do it. That was actually Lee Gartman. So shout out Lee Gartman. Your question is going to be coming up a little bit later in the show for sure. All right, so what we're going to do today, we're going to wrap up the World Series talk because, we have to. It's Dan's team. He is still celebrating. He ain't been to work yet. And celebrating his Astros championships. We're going to wrap that up. We got baseball, mailbag questions, believe it or not. I'm going to get into that. And then sad news about the passing of Roy Halladay. We'll talk just a second about that and wrap up the whole baseball season, I suppose, for a bit on the podcast, unless something else major breaks. We'll talk a little college basketball. We got that kicking off really, really soon. We got some big things coming up from myfantasysportstalk.com. So wait and listen and find out more about that coming up this weekend, as soon as this weekend. So college basketball kickoff. myfantasysportstalk.com fantasy football league going great for some, not so well for others. We'll talk about that. NFL mailbag questions, NBA mailbag questions, and it's going to be not as crazy. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be full. It's not going to be just me and Dan. But not going to be as crazy as the last few weeks. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
Yeah. We can only take so much of the Thomas Take and DDT, Dylan Davis Torado. Great guys, but they're a bit much. You can only handle them in doses, and we don't want to ruin our audience, our newfound audience, on those two punks.
Damn, that's a call out right now. Now you need a tag team partner. You got us both in trouble now because you need a tag team partner now.
You needed to bring that weeks ago. You needed to bring that kind of attitude to them weeks ago when they stole the show when I was enjoying my vacation. But yeah, they're a little bit of punks. Listen to previous shows if you want to know what we're talking about.
So it's my fault. I kind of let it get out of control, huh? I'm the a-hole here. Okay.
I won't come out and say it, but
All right, but so those two guys will not be on the show this week, but probably will be very soon. They're probably listening and will probably writing notes or tapping notes on their phone. If Ryan can get into his phone and figure out how to do that. And so, but we do have Orlando on the show today, be coming in real soon. So it's going to kind of be like an old times, man, just the trio, and nothing too wild.
Yeah, that's the way it works. I like it. I'm still coming off this Astros World Series, World Championship, so it's good that I can just soak that in with the two regulars, the two guys that are always on the show instead of having to gloat too much, especially to DDT actually and Ryan, because the Astros beat both the Red Sox and Yankees, their two teams, en route to that World Series championship.
It's true. It's very true. And we've had moments going back and forth on this show with both of those guys about both of those scenarios, and you ended up on the winning end both times this year.
It feels good. It does. It's been a while since any of the teams that I've rooted for have won a championship. Obviously, I'm a Cowboys fan, but they haven't won a title since 1996, and I was 8 years old. So to be able to experience it and go through an entire season watching them, this Astros championship was definitely special and something I've never been able to experience before in my adult life. Watching one of the teams that you root for and cover win a championship, it's something special.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like, man. The Tigers were really, really close, so close. But I guess it just got all vacated the next year anyway. But anyway, you couldn't have taken those memories from my heart. Man, we were just a minute and a half away.
But at least you get to watch Mario Chalmers on the Grizzlies now. I mean, that's a good thing.
He's not such a bad guy now, but yeah, I'd rather trade him missing that shot and never have him as a Grizzly. That's the scenario I would rather have. But it is what it is. But no, never been that close. And I rooted for teams, sort of like that, but never felt like the heartfelt or hometown grown connection. Just teams I rooted for, like Arkansas. I rooted for Arkansas before. Kentucky, I root for Kentucky. I like Kentucky, always have, but just for other reasons. Like back in the day, Patino, and just so you root for teams who you like, but man, I can't even think. Man, the Titans were that close. I've kind of felt a deep connection with that one. That one hurt, Dan.
Yeah, that was that was a good one. That was my brother was a Rams fan growing up, so watching that Super Bowl, I actually experienced his eyes a nice victory for that. So yeah, you're not coming close to a championship, I don't think, anytime soon. You're still some years away, especially in the NBA. I think it's tough for the Grizzlies to actually compete for a championship year in, year out. They might need to get lucky 1 year with some injuries on other teams, but the Titans, a few years down the road, I think they'll need a new head coach en route to doing that. I think Mike Mularkey's bringing out his Bills roots lately, so we like their talent. But you're still some years away from going through it.
So let me put the microscope on your situation then. Let me see. So you root for Colorado in college football, right? I don't know how close they could ever be in the foreseeable future. Do you think?
No. Yeah, they're done. Never.
Okay. And now is Charlotte seriously your team in the NBA now?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, for the time being. With the NBA, it's there's so much rollover and change between rosters, coaches. So it's tough for me growing up. I would never really had a team. I had the Orlando Magic actually when I was younger with Shaq and Penny. That's who I liked, but I kind of more like the players than I did the actual team. So with all the changing, it's tough to nail down a team. I'll always have a soft spot for the Nuggets, but the reason that I was a Nuggets fan was George Karl. So that was it. So the Hornets for now. Who knows? Ask me in 5 years. I'm a NBA bandwagon guy, but not to the good teams.
Okay. And then the Cowboys, man, just I don't know. I think I agree. They're probably in the top 6 to 8 every single year. Man, it just hadn't gone anywhere though. It's astonishing that it hasn't gone anywhere when a lot of other teams have, or at least got to the Super Bowl and had that chance. And the Cowboys just haven't since the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be the one that's the most bittersweet gloriousness when it does happen, because that's the one that I my loyalty to the Cowboys is obviously a little real behind me. So I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan through and through. So when that happens, because I know it will happen, it'll be fantastic. I can already tell you.
I mean, it's bound to happen sooner or later. I don't know, but I really think probably the best chance you have would be your Astros repeating again next year.
Yeah, I like our chances. I mean, we only have 3 to 4 free agents total. So I mean, the bulk of our team is coming back. We need a couple pieces, maybe a starting pitcher, definitely some bullpen help. But our lineup is basically set. So the Astros, I mean, it's tough to repeat in baseball. It hasn't happened in almost 2 decades, 99, 2000 with the Yankees. So it's tough to do. Obviously, we saw how the playoffs are. I mean, it's highly competitive. Any team that makes the Major League Baseball playoffs can win the whole thing, to be honest, except the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, as long as you got a solid rotation of about 3 guys that are hot at the right time. I mean, that's the team to look out for, regardless of the seedings.
Yeah. So anybody can win. So repeats are tough. It's probably the most difficult in baseball. But yeah, the Astros are set up for success for not only next year but the next few years.
So you mentioned the low amount of free agents they got coming up. That leads us a great segue into our first question, our first mailbag question here. John McCumber wants to talk about MLB free agency. He knows it's coming up. I feel it's the most underrated free agency period in all 4 major sports, as a matter of fact. Who are you most intrigued by possibly switching teams this offseason? That was John McCumber. Dan, you had the piece. That's what I go by. Tell me your most surprising, though, or how John puts it, you're most intrigued by.
Yeah, it's actually a guy who hasn't played in the major leagues before. It's Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese baseball player. He's a young kid in his low 20s. I think he's like 21 or 22. But he's a pitcher outfielder. He's kind of this first ever hybrid, and he's going to be coming over to the majors. He just signed with CAA sports agency, an American-based sports agent. And basically every team in the majors wants this guy. He can throw triple digits and he can hit 40 home runs in a season if he wanted. So there's talk that he's going to go specifically to an American League club so he can be a pitcher DH and play 7 days a week. So he's a guy that I'm intrigued by what team is going to pony up the sizable contract money to sign him, and what are they going to do with him? Are they going to say you're just a pitcher, you're just a hitter, or will they kind of do that hybrid role? So that's the number one free agent that I'm looking out for to see where he's going to sign, because he's a game changer. If he signs any length of deal, I mean, this kid he's in his prime now and he still has 10 years left, as long as he stays healthy, of being a top 50 major league player. So what
was that name again? I'm about to write that down. What you said?
Yeah, for fantasy baseball purposes. Shohei Ohtani, or however you want to pronounce it.
Shohei Ohtani?
Shohei SH something Ohtani.
Sure, I got it. So
you got that, yeah.
I got it.
But yeah, I mean, he's going to be special, and I can't wait to see where it happens, because he's going to be signing within the next month, I'd say.
Man, okay. Yeah, you came way out of left field on that one. He ain't even on the list here, is he? So out of the list that you put out, though, that's what I'm looking at, guys. And if you really want to know and keep up with it, Dan has the complete list right here, already up on the on the website. This came up a few days ago. So 2017-2018 MLB free agency tracker is up right now. So out of that list, tell me, Dan, who are like the top 3 to 5 guys out of this whole list?
A couple names. Yu Darvish, who just played in the World Series. He had a terrible World Series. Obviously, I'm as an Astros fan, I enjoyed his play, but he couldn't escape the second inning either of his starts. But he's going to be a high-priced pitcher that's available. Wade Davis is probably the best relief pitcher, the best closer on the market. I actually expect the Astros to be pretty aggressive going after Wade Davis. Jake Arrieta is another name. A couple position players that are going to be high-priced guys, both from the Royals, Eric Hosmer and Lorenzo Cain. Those are 2 guys that I expect to sign pretty big deals. And the guy who's probably going to sign the biggest deal is JD Martinez, outfielder from the Diamondbacks. He actually came out today and said he's looking for a $200+ million contract. So. Baseball salaries and contracts are crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets something close to that. So those are just some names that are going to be moving teams most likely this offseason for high price deals.
John Lackey is up, huh?
Yeah, he said he will play in 2018. It was unsure. There was talk of him possibly retiring, but he said he does want to come back. 44-year-old Bartolo Colon is also going to be coming back to pitch another year. He had
he didn't do so bad at the end of last year.
Yeah, with the Twins. I mean, he kind of revived his career, but in the beginning of the season with the Braves, I think he had like a 10+ ERA. But it'll be interesting to see if a team does sign him. Probably sign him to a minor league contract and have him work his way up into the rotation.
See another one here of interest, Lance Lynn.
That's another guy. The Cardinals tendered him the qualifying offer, so if a team does sign him, they do get a first-round draft pick in return. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
All right, so you mentioned the 4 Astros.
Yes, yeah. So I wrote a piece talking about how the Astros could repeat. Evan Gattis, I actually put in the piece as a free agent. Turns out he's in his last year of arbitration eligible, so he's probably going to be back with the Astros. But it's guys like Carlos Beltran, who's probably going to retire now that he won his ring. Tyler Clippard, a couple no-name relievers. So there's not too many guys of impact who actually played every day that are going to be lost. Basically, their entire starting lineup is under contract for the next couple of years, to be honest.
That's what I was going to say. Is how long are they? The bulk of it wrapped up for a few years.
Yeah.
That's the key. And that's why, I think that Astros are probably your best chance to celebrate a championship out of all the teams you root for. So. Looks good, but yeah, as far as the free agency, man, was it John McCumber? Dan's got a complete list up here on the site right now, myfantasysportstalk.com. So just kind of wrap up the baseball talk. I think it was Monday, the news of Roy Halladay, Dan.
Last night, yeah,
last Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, last night it kind of came out. There was a plane that was registered to him crashed, and there wasn't news until I actually watched the press conference at 4:15 p.m. Eastern. They announced it was Roy Halladay who was, tragically died in a plane crash in the Gulf of Mexico. He doing some research into the story after I found out he passed. Obviously, it was rough. It was a guy that I watched consistently. Being in Buffalo, we got Blue Jays games a lot, so he was the ace of the Blue Jays for a long time, so I was able to watch his career and then move over to the National League and win a championship with the Phillies. So it's a guy that I watched. So when I heard this, it was definitely upsetting and troubling, and just digging into it a little bit. He bought the plane, a month or so ago, and he was like, it was the happiest day of my life. This was, a reason why he retired is to be able to experience flying in this type of plane. It was an Icon A5, which is like a 2-seat, kind of a trick plane, tricked out plane that you can fly low levels, high levels, and do all sorts of stuff with. So, and in the article that I put out, his wife actually didn't want him to purchase the plane, tried to plead against him of doing so. So it was really saddening and kind of heartbreaking as I wrote the article and found out this info of what happened. But definitely a rough time, and you see the baseball community kind of come out and support Roy Halladay and his family.
Yeah, that was a pretty sad spin to the story. Finding that out, because his wife was, just really strictly opposed to the whole thing, and him, I guess, even flying. And so I guess he was a pretty amateur pilot too. So, man, that's crazy. And was he even 40 years old?
I think he just turned 40. Yep, he was 40 exactly.
Wow. So, Roy Halladay, Philly's great, Blue Jays great. No, man, it's a sad story. Oh, yeah. Something you said though, Dan, just kind of got me thinking here. Why don't you really support the Toronto Blue Jays? I mean, that's geographically the closest Major League Baseball team to you, isn't it? Or Orioles, or it's got to be Toronto, right?
Yeah, but I hate crossing the border to get into Canada. It's a bitch. So, it's basically it. It's not a really good reason. But
yeah, I mean, but it can't be a longer trip than to Houston.
no, it's not a longer trip. It's just I don't know, you know.
It's the Blue Jays. Yeah.
Come on, I don't know. Canada and Buffalo. I mean, we're friendly, but there's some animosity. Like the Sabres and Maple Leafs are bitter rivals, and I don't like Canadian beer too much. I don't know. Put me on the spot there. I'd never really thought about it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I pointed it out. Like, duh, man, why don't you?
But I don't have a track record of liking any hometown team. If that makes you feel any better, like the Bills, I stand them. So different things.
I guess that is true too. All right, so we're gonna bring in our man Orlando Torres, the podcast here in just a second, and start with the mailbag questions and talk a little college basketball. Believe it or not, coming up next. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Visit the website. It's a lot of good stuff on there. We just touched on just a little bit. We're going to touch on a little bit more and bring our man Orlando Torres in here. So what we're talking about here with this college basketball kickoff, Dan, is you know how I feel about college basketball. I think me and you share kind of a deep passion for college basketball in the sport of the game. It's I don't know, it's a different kind of feel. But that's my favorite sport for sure, is college basketball. And we're about to kick it off, and it's something a little bit different. Now, you mentioned before on a previous podcast that they weren't doing the ESPN marathon anymore, but it seemed to me like maybe is it now this new kickoff day? Because I looked at it, and I'm going to put out an article Friday morning detailing some highlight games, you guys, that I think are some of the key games from the first kickoff day. But in the article, I have pointed out, Dan, that on Friday there are 163 NCAA basketball games.
I'm just cheering in silence. That's just it. That's that makes me happy. That's bottom line. I mean, I didn't look at that schedule. I mean, on the previous podcast I mentioned how sad I was when I found out that ESPN canceled their 24-hour marathon of college basketball, because I was the guy that would stay up at 1, 3, and 5 a.m. Eastern time and watch games. I loved it against the mid-level, mid-major teams. So yeah, I'm looking forward to your piece on the site, Brandon, and I'll be watching. I just
Did you take off Friday.
I don't have off Friday because the games are later on. I don't think they start too early.
A few early, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm actually, to rival your article, I'm going to be coming out with another article talking about Thursday and Friday, November 16th and 17th, which I did actually take off work for because they have the Puerto Rico tip-off, the Gildan Charleston Classic, the 2K Classic. They have all those tournaments. Literally, there's like 10 to 15 of them, and the games start at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. So it's not a 24-hour marathon, but it starts early enough, and I'll be off covering it. Watching all those games, and I can't wait for it. College basketball, to me, it's kind of weird. I was about to say it's kind of still the most pure sport to me, despite, the whole scandals and everything that's going on with recruiting and all that. But when they are actually on the court, to me, that's still the most team-oriented, the most pure sport to watch, and that's one reason why I love it so much.
Yep, definitely, no doubt. And you mentioned that, so I want you to mention something else that you put out on the website just this week. Man, it's been a busy week. It's going to be a great week. But another story, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
You should. We're talking about allegations and who you think is pure is not.
Oh, your boy Josh Pastner. Oh yeah. I forgot. I thought you were going to want to talk about that because you held him in such high regard when he was coaching your Memphis Tigers.
We can talk about that at 6 or 8 different points of this whole show if you want. I'll squeeze him in NFL talk if you really want. But you wrote it. You alerted me to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, basically, check out the story for all the the exact details on it, but. Basically Josh Pastner didn't call his friend on his birthday, and his friend knew a lot of dark secrets about Josh Pastner. I'm not even kidding. Like that's what caused this whole thing. Josh Pastner didn't call his supposed friend on his birthday, and he knew all these deep dark secrets about possible scandals that Josh Pastner has done, paying for recruits or giving benefits to recruits through this friend, and now he's being I guess a snitch. And if Josh Pastner would have just called him on his birthday, him and Georgia Tech might not be going through this. But it seemed a little like I would tend to believe the guy just looking at the facts. But Pastner
looks at the facts. What are you doing looking at facts, Dan? It's not the world we live in.
I'm trying to, but there's also outs of what Pastner can do because his friend was an ex-con. So, you always have those things to pass. So definitely check out the story for more.
He did.
To find it all out. But you find some laughter in it and some intrigue, some mystery, all in a 500-word article in our college basketball section.
It is an unusual story and just an unusual twist, and we don't know which way it's going to go. But yeah, the guy was on the radio, Ben something, I forgot his name. You may remember Dan, but anyway, he was on the Memphis radio yesterday afternoon, spilling all too, and saying, I got a lot more. But anyway, that's on the website right now. Speaking of a lot mo, I'm sorry, Orlando. He's been on the podcast 17 minutes. Hello.
Hey, I was entertained by you and Dan. It's no worries. Y'all can keep on rambling. I'm just here. No worries.
My bad. It's Orlando Torres to the podcast. What up, dude?
How's it going, fellas?
It's going. The
Astros are world champs, so it's well. I'm still
Astros are world champs. And it's the
enjoying
first time I've noticed in a couple weeks that it's just been us three without anybody else. So it feels kind of good without someone else just talking over us. I'm just kidding.
No, we've already addressed them as punks. So DDT and Thomas take no. We already called them out for it. Well, and Orlando, you probably have just as much of a gripe as I did when I was on vacation and Brandon just allowed chaos to take over. And
I forgot about Orlando too.
Orlando sitting there in the bottom right-hand corner. That's where you can see us. And he was just there being all nice. And, those two took over.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Brandon told me, whatever you do, step aside. I got it. I'm the head honcho here. So, I put my faith in Brandon Reed, and I don't know what happened. I think he got nervous, a cold feet or something.
Man, I needed you as a tag team partner. You didn't step in, man. I would make hag, and you backed up. You let go off the rope and dropped off the apron and turned your back on me. So you need to be more assertive with those guys. Dan called them punks, so you know how you got to treat punks like that. So right back.
Got it. Won't happen again.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, hey, me and Dan have been talking about, as you probably heard, college basketball, Orlando. How excited are you that college basketball is back? Just one more thing. And you're a pretty big college basketball fan too, right?
Yeah, no, pretty excited coming up. So, with all the games coming up. So, again, I've been trying to catch up on the season previews and everything like that and, get ready for the season. Just another thing to keep up with. And it's fun. The whole season, it's just all the drama. I remember all the coverage we did last year. It's just nonstop. And it's great. Everybody gets involved. All the stories we put out, all the questions we get.
And so many different opinions about who's going to win the tournament and the brackets and all that and all that.
Oh, yeah, because everybody has an opinion about who's going to run through. Through the basketball, and there's always so many surprises. That's the crazy part. There's always so many surprises, and sometimes you just can't predict who it's going to be at the end.
So let's dig a little bit deeper into the college basketball, guys. As me and Dan mentioned, we'll have articles out this weekend detailing the opening kickoff to college basketball. So be on the lookout for that. Our first college basketball question comes from a first-time listener from last week. So that deserves applause. Like we said before, Dan, we appreciate all the new listeners and spread the word and keep the questions coming because that's kind of what we thrive on here at My Fantasy Podcast and MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Right, Dan? We kind of thrive on that interaction. You tell us what to talk about, and we'll talk about it. You like it or love it, but, you start the debate, and we'll go.
Yeah, honestly, without the mailbag questions, we kind of wouldn't know what to talk about. Obviously, we could talk about all kinds of sports, but we'd go all over the place. So
We probably wouldn't like each other. The questions kind of keep a parameter around the conversation, and put it in a box. So you just try not to go outside this box. But if it was wild chaos, then none of us would probably like each other.
yeah, except I mean, some of the questions you could consider chaos. And if anybody has listened to some of the previous shows, we enjoy the hate mail questions when you call out Orlando for messing up your fantasy lineup that Sunday. He enjoys hearing it. He likes that negative feedback. It makes him better as a person. So if you keep those hate questions, we all remember when Brandon Reed was pitching Eddie Lacy as an RB2 in fantasy football preseason. Andy Dalton, top 5 quarterback. So I mean, hate mail. There's nothing really towards me. I mean, that's the good thing with reading all this hate mail. But for those two guys, it's a plenty. So send it our way. You like that, guys? That was a nice little 2 digs at you in one full sentence.
I know I'm trying to think of addressing a couple of different things in my head, but the top thing on my head is Andy Dalton's probably going to end up surpassing the guy that I do have, Matt Ryan. I don't know.
So he might be available on the waiver wire. I think Orlando finally bit the dust on him. You dropped him, right?
Yeah.
Andy. Oh yeah, I had to.
When Jared Goff,
bad shows.
Man, when Jared Goff is a much better prospect than Andy Dalton, then it's time for Andy Dalton to go off your team. But I'm sick of fantasy football. Let's talk about Lee Gartman's question. First time listener last week of the My Fantasy Sports Podcast. Not sure if this is where I send the questions, but I will anyway. It don't matter. We got it. Appreciate that. Huge college basketball fan. Love Memphis and UConn. I know it's kind of weird, right? But they weren't always in the same conference. You got to remember. So I heard Brandon's comments on Tubby last week and how they're not going to be a tournament team, and I would tend to agree. But what about UConn? They were a bad team to watch at times last year, and is it a turnaround in store, do you think? And will you guys be talking college basketball all season long? Not too many podcasts do until tourney time. So, Lee Gartman, what do you say? What do you say, Dan? I want your opinion.
Yeah, we will be talking college basketball because Brandon, I, and Orlando. I mean, the 3 guys who like college basketball. I did some research for you on your UConn question. I did watch them a little bit last year. They did lose, obviously, Rodney Purvis, Amir Abrida. 2 guys who kind of were those leaders of the team. So, Kevin Ollie's going to kind of be looking for other guys to step up, and basically they're dependent on their backcourt and their guard play. Their number 1 player, Jalen Adams, he's coming back, junior. He's their point guard. He averaged almost 15 a game, over 6 assists. So he's a guy that's going to have to take that step up and take that kind of Rodney Purvis closer type role. I see him kind of molding into Kemba Walker from a few years ago, kind of just taking the team on his back. And obviously, if you were a UConn fan last year, Lee, they were devastated with injuries. I mean, I think it was like 4 or 5 guys who were in line to be starters, missed time, and a couple of guys that are coming back after playing a total of 7 games between them. Terry Larriere, who's going to be the 2 guard, I think. Next to Adams, he's going to be a guy who only played in 4 games, but he's going to have 15, 5, and 5 type numbers. So it's very backcourt dependent. They lost a lot of front court guys. I think they have some JUCO transfers coming in and a couple young guys in their front court. So they're going to need them to step up. But to be a winning team and to be a tournament team, it's going to be all backcourt dependent.
Yeah, they get so many new players. I think like at least 11 fresh faces that are either brand new or didn't really play much before now. So a whole new chemistry for UConn. And it's hard to say that, they're going to be in any worse shape than Memphis. I think Memphis will probably be in a little bit worse shape, I would think. But I don't know what UConn is. That's the problem. You just don't know what UConn is. UConn doesn't know what it is. Kevin Ollie doesn't really know what UConn is yet. So it's going to take a little bit of figuring out. But it's amazing to me that these two teams are really going down similar paths here, is really tradition-rich basketball clubs and programs that have had a lot of success lately. UConn, obviously, more success, but Memphis was right there too. Just a stretch there of just dominant basketball. I think Memphis won more games than anyone in NCAA history over like a 4, 5, 6 year period, something like that. You got to think about it. They were just killing. But UConn's won the championship. But now UConn actually had a worse season than Memphis record wise last year. They were, I think, 14-15, 15-16, something like that. And Memphis was 19-13. Well over 500. It just didn't mean anything. They weren't quality wins. So. But I got faith in these guys. I do have a lot of faith in Kevin Ollie, and I have a lot of faith in Tubby Smith, the two guys with rings on their fingers. So I trust those guys. You got to work through the process. It's too big of programs to not be back up at top level soon. But they're all in trouble now because Wichita State is in the conference, and it might be a walkthrough this year. Cincinnati should be tough too, but Wichita
I think that
State,
actually – that helps them, Wichita State coming over, because it was always, well, your conference play isn't as deep as some of these other conferences that you have. Mm-hmm. So now that Wichita State's back in, it kind of brings up that you're going to play them twice, and you're going to have a 2 top 10 teams.
Yep. The only thing about that, though, is, I get you're right, but I'm pretty confident that Wichita State would beat us twice.
Yeah, that part's true, but you got to hope that your team will, take that step up, and that's a tournament resume boosting win if you can't beat a Wichita State.
You're right. That is right. If you
have faith in Tubby, you're going to be wishing the Lawson brothers were back soon.
We're done with that. I can see it now in the FedEx Forum that Wichita State's coming to town. They're ranked number 2 in the nation. Tigers win, rush the floor. I see it now, Dan. That's a very viable scenario. Okay. But appreciate the question, Lee Gartman. And Lee's question, the way he phrased it here at the end, also made me think of something else, Dan. So he wants to know, maybe we can mention on the podcast the best way to get a hold of us to get your question read and join the mailbag section. So the best way to do that, Dan, the preferred method, and let me add something to that and to Lee Gartman, why don't you fire back at us at this information that Dan gives you and tell us what kind of college basketball coverage you would like to see throughout the year, because you're obviously a big college basketball fan, and so you tell us what kind of segments, what's the most valuable information to you on a week-by-week basis, so maybe we can get that going, and Dan will tell you the best way to get it going.
Yeah, I would say the bulk of our questions come in via Facebook. You like our page, you can send us a message, you can reach out to me and send me a message. It's probably honestly where 75 to 80% of all of our questions come. And then obviously on Twitter, you can follow us. We still even receive email questions. If you go on our website, myfantasysportstalk@gmail.com is our email. We receive email questions. And we actually even have a form on the website where you can submit comments to us. So we've gotten some questions on there. But honestly, Facebook, facebook.com/ffsportstalk is the URL, or just search My Fantasy Sports Talk. And you'll see us right on there. So send them any form of social media or email, or right on the website, myfantasysportstalk.com.
That's right. And one I don't think made the question list, but a conversation I saw going on this morning, Dan, was a question about Duke Johnson and Isaiah Crowell that I really wanted to chime in on bad. But you remember that guy's name?
I do not know, but he actually had Isaiah Crowell or Duke Johnson this week, and it's, I told him Duke Johnson because honestly, with the Cleveland Browns playing the Lions, they're going to be losing that game, so you're going to see Duke Johnson on the field quite a bit, in my opinion, which that doesn't bode well for Brandon. I think you still have Crowell as probably your top running back on your team.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to chime in, because I'm like Duke Johnson every day, all day over Isaiah Crowell based on the numbers I've gotten. So that's what I was going to chime in and say. But I saw that going on. So there's bonus for you, bonus mailbag question, like the lost mailbag question right there. But what we're going to do is dive into the myfantasysportstalk.com fantasy league so we can get some more trash talk going on next. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Brandon Reed, Dan Shaw, and Orlando Torres is there. So, we like to get it started. We have, loyal writers and question submitters to the show, and sometimes they just like to get us going. So this question about our fantasy football league this year, it was from Nick Pertins. Let me see. Yeah, what does Nick say? Who's dominating fantasy football? I know if Dan answered directly, he would say himself.
It's true. It's true. I am, Nick. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, we knew that. Brandon, have you climbed out of the early season hole? No more last place for Lando. Fill us in. Go Grizz. Nick Pertins. You go ahead, Dan. Just go ahead. We'll start from the top and go to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on top, and that's basically how it's been all year. That's how it's going to be. At 7-2, me and Prestige Worldwide, I honestly can't tell you how he continues to win. He beat me.
He beat you.
He does. He wins, but his team isn't good. And if I play him in the playoffs, I'm confident I will get my revenge. But yeah, I mean, it's me, and then it's a bunch of people just looking right up at the top at the champ. So good luck to you guys. You can lead it. Actually, I don't even think. Am I going to be the only guy on the podcast in the postseason? Is the question. Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah. I've had some horrible luck with some running backs. So, well, the thing is, in our division, the standings are pretty crazy. So I'm literally like a game behind from the two guys in front of me. So, see what happens. Right behind Jim and Kobe. I'm not too sure about new breeds over here.
No, you ain't got to look at it. I'll tell you. I'm 3-6, and there's only 4 games left, so I've given up. But I'll talk a little bit about our game last week when I played Romo the dog, whatever your name is.
That's my fantasy name and my dog's name.
Yeah, that was your team.
Where I get the name from.
You got a couple different names. I think you call yourself last year's champ in basketball, which is so conceited. So conceited.
Well, here's the thing: when you are the champ from the previous year, and there's new people to the league, and they want to know who to look up to, and why is that person dominating everybody else, and they can just look at the team. And last year's champ. Oh, okay. Well, this guy's good. So
okay, I guess I did the same thing with the ring. The ring.
I'm going to take it.
Avatar. And it hadn't gone.
Is that still there, or did you take it off?
I'm riding. I'm going down with the ship. So anyway, we'll talk about when I played Dan Shalk this week. You got lucky, Dan. You got lucky. You know, add just a little bit of friendly advice. Your team better sharpen it up a bit because, if I would have pulled off that game, and I was just an Alshon Jeffrey move away from beating you, big time, really.
That was just Jacoby Brissett move from beating that move.
Well, it wasn't a 1 though, but I mean, Jacob, that would have been a little bit of a boost for you. But Alshon's on the bench going off. You know how much that killed me.
Once I found out Zach Ertz, because on Friday last week I put out an article about Zach Ertz being on the injury report, and he ultimately was scratched before the game, and I was checking your team to see if you were going to put Alshon Jeffrey in to kind of counter that move. That's who I was expecting you to do, to take out actually Paul Richardson and put him in. Paul
Richardson fever.
Yeah, and I was very thankful. So I enjoyed that move. That was not a champion move. No.
Okay, well, the other move is I went ahead and snagged TJ Yeldon.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Because I thought, man, pass catching back, do a little bit more. It's going to be a long game, and I thought they'd be in it. And in place, I took out Rob Kelly, which I had every right to do, but he would have been the better move, it turns out.
Yeah, I mean that's tough when you have. I think he had under 15 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. So Fat Rob was exactly that, fat, and he just got a couple yards to get a touchdown. So that's tough. You can't really. I don't blame you there. Yeldon was the better play, especially with Fournette being inactive on Sunday as well.
Yeah, and I just wasn't buying a whole lot from Chris Ivory. I thought there'd be an even split. But anyway, irregardless, if I would have, and that's what my lineup was, I think, going into Sunday morning, Dan, I switched it up Sunday morning. If I had left it alone and left Kelly and Jeffrey in, then there's nothing you could have done with no lineup. That would have been enough. Yeah, but, man, broke my heart. But you probably just ended my fantasy 4 games to go at 3-6. I'm done.
Well, I mean, you guys can live vicariously through my championship season, and I will, as I experience the gratitude and the gratification of the Astros winning World Series. I think this one will be even sweeter when I pull out my fantasy sports talk fantasy league championship. Thank you.
You just might, honestly. As much as it stings me in the behind, you just might. I don't know what the next best competition right now is for you. So, but anyway.
It's going to be Prestige. He already beat him. He's coming for him.
Yeah, but I beat him.
I don't know how he keeps winning either.
I beat him back in the day when I was really sucking.
I mean, Prestige Worldwide starts 5 out of the 6 Patriots running backs, and 3 of them are inactive half the time. I just don't understand how it's just not possible. And I guess he just got Jared Goff. I'm looking at his team right now. He didn't have him before.
That's a good pickup.
Yeah, it is.
I guess
he starts Mike Gillislee and James White every single week.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, running backs are scarce in this league.
I got him a plenty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
they ain't got lucky, though. They ain't got lucky.
No. It's called talent and skill when you know that Kareem Hunt's going to be the man.
And luck with Spencer Ware going down.
I'm not going to get into that again. I'm not getting into it. Go to August, people, if you want to see me school new breeds on Kareem Hunt, Spencer Ware talk. I'm not getting into it right now. Okay.
I don't know what that's.
Well, I think speaking of that, Ryan was one of those who took a shot at you about Kareem Hunt, and this week you get to face him, although you do not have Kareem Hunt in your lineup, unfortunately. But I mean, you still probably get to serve him up something.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was talking about how he said Fournette was going to be better. At least Kareem Hunt can make it on the field and not get suspended. So I'd rather take a guy who's active every week instead of violating team rules and being inactive.
So let me ask Orlando's opinion real quick before we move on from this. I don't know if you saw my trade. Mike Evans for Lamar Miller straight up. And you know my running back situation is well documented on this podcast. Mike Evans for Lamar Miller straight up. What did you think about that last week? What do you think about that now, Orlando?
I mean, at first, I felt like you probably could have got a little bit more from Mike Evans. But, I mean, looking at the way the Bucs playing.
People weren't biting. I was trying.
Yeah, no, people weren't buying. That's a tough thing. People weren't buying. But looking at the way it's playing out, I don't think he's suspended. He's suspended this week. And just the numbers he's put up.
But it's besides that. It's the fact that Jameis is put on the shelf. They're not playing well anyway. They're just not as good a defense. They're just not as good a team.
Yeah, they're not as good as a team. So I mean, overall, it wasn't a bad trade. Overall, I mean, it looks pretty bad. I mean, but it wasn't it wasn't overall. And then surprisingly, I mean, Lamar Miller's been getting like 90 yards a game and at least 9 points a game. So that's something at least you could look forward to that you're getting from Lamar Miller. From Mike Evans, you don't know what you're going to get. It's
situational for me. I need that. I mean, Dan, I had left 23 point wide receiver points on my bench last week. I needed the running back way more than the wide receiver.
Yeah, here's the thing. Dante Foreman is going to end up being the starter by the end of the year. So you traded Mike Evans for a backup running back.
4 weeks, Dan. 4 weeks left. What do I got to lose? I'm 3-6.
So then you're just giving Casey Birch a free ticket to the playoffs to possibly ruin my championship chances. This was all collusion to try and take the man down. I know. Don't think I don't know.
Collusion? What is Mike Evans' value, honestly, to you now? He is still not a top 5 wide receiver.
To me, he is. If when he's on the field every single time, he is. Yep.
Who's playing quarterback for them? Is it
Ryan Fitzpatrick? When he goes to someplace for the first time, he always tears it up. And he looked good in relief of Winston a couple weeks ago. So
I guess we'll see.
Collusion.
The value ain't there to me. And Dan did try to block it. So it's dirty tactics in our league. Nick is
nobody was biting. I didn't try and block it. I was just going to wait for it to run out, and it would have went through. It was accepted. It was accepted.
But it wasn't going to go through until Tuesday. I mean, and I just so happened to be
what's
playing
up with
you.
That? What's up with that? Wait, the late accepting in the proposal. I mean, it was after a Thursday
Friday
game.
morning.
If this was an actual NFL league office franchise, that would have been not allowed. You have to wait for the in franchise mode in Madden. Once that Thursday game starts, you cannot make a trade midweek. You gotta go.
Man, you probably can with a certain slider, but I mean, I'm talking about real life. You got to have time to move. That's why you ain't playing in that short of notice. But this is fantasy football. I mean, yeah. And it was just so ironic that I was playing you and you didn't want the trade to go through. And he was projected 15.6.
I was trying to help you out.
Oh, help me out! How would you help me out? What did Mike?
Because Mike Evans is a lot better player than Lamar Miller. I've trashed Lamar Miller for 2 straight years on this podcast, and he's just not good. He's a backup.
Okay, all right. Well, let's wrap it up. No, I haven't climbed out of the hole. If you haven't heard by now, in Orlando's, it's probably going to be me. I mean, I'm not in last place. I mean, I'm with a slump. I could be there, but I'm not completely in last place. We got a couple of bad teams. Anyway, that's the league. Nick Pertins, appreciate the question as always. The league, myfantasysportstalk.com league. So, we actually got real mailbag questions to get into and talk about with the NFL. A lot of questions from you guys, different scenarios coming up as you are your fantasy playoffs are coming up real soon. Within, like I said, our league has 4 more weeks. So let's get into those mailbag questions next. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Brandon Reed, Dan Shaw, Orlando Torres is here. The Calm Crew, just the trio, the original posse. Hello?
Yeah, we'll
guys.
go with that.
No, I thought you were going to keep going.
Guys?
I thought you were going to keep building on that.
Oh, man. Okay. Y'all build for me, handing it off. Again, the tag. I reach for the tag.
We were leaving you hanging after that Lamar Miller trade. Just, I'm not over it. Collusion.
I'll go pretty close to making a guarantee that Lamar Miller outscores Mike Evans the rest of the year in fantasy points in our league.
See. We will see.
We'll see. Okay. But anyway, the first real question here is from Rick Gold. Is Will Fuller droppable in a 10-team league? Don't want to deal with Tom savagely effing with my team, says Rick Gold. So, droppable, I would seek some sort of trade to see if someone's just high on Will Fuller and try to get you a bench player that you like better before I just absolutely drop him right now. But we're approaching that territory pretty soon. I'm not sure that he provides consistent fantasy value now because, man, it's a big drop. And they signed another quarterback this week too, didn't they?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. They had TJ Yates. I think they signed last week. It doesn't matter. The Texans aren't going anywhere without Deshaun.
Who signed Josh Jackson or Josh Jones or whoever it was this morning? The guy who had played, huh?
Not a clue.
Y'all didn't hear about that?
That's how irrelevant that guy is because I don't even know who you're talking about.
That conversation opened.
Jones,
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
That opens up a whole different conversation here because, yes, Josh Jones, Josh Jackson, whoever it was that was signed yesterday hasn't played or thrown a snap since 2011. So,
Jimmy don't know who you're talking about. It was a Seinfeld reference there. It went over your head. The James.
Okay, when they didn't have Google back when Jimmy was selling shoes. But anyway, all right, y'all look that up. Again, that opens up a whole different can of worms. But anyway, back to the question at hand. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be consistent value there. I don't know. Do you think he's droppable, Dan? Completely droppable?
So I'm actually in a 10-man league. It is a keeper league, but I have the waiver wire here of who's available on wide receivers in this 10-man league. Cooper Kupp, Robbie Anderson, Robert Woods, Mohamed Sanu, Marquise Lee, Jamison Crowder, Terrence Williams. So I mean, some of those names like Robbie Anderson and Marquise Lee, I would probably trust on a weekly basis more than Will Fuller. But I mean, looking at Fuller, he was so touchdown dependent this year. I think he had 15 total receptions, and seven of them were for touchdowns, and that was with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. So he's with Tom Savage. Yeah, I would probably say he's droppable, but like you said, maybe try to move him via trade first. But if there's definitely a better option on the waiver wire, go for it. If not, then just keep him. And if it's a redraft league, though, don't be afraid to let him go to that waiver wire if there is a guy like Marquise Lee or Robbie Anderson who are going to get more targets week in, week out for the final 4 to 6 weeks.
So here's the article, Dan, from Daniel Rappaport from Sports Illustrated. Here's the headline. The Texans just signed a quarterback who has not thrown a pass since 2011 while Colin Kaepernick remains a free agent. That's who I was talking about. Josh Johnson. It was the Texans who signed him. They released Matt McGloin and signed Josh Johnson, who has not thrown a pass in the NFL since 2011.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that's their plan? You think that's who's going to be playing in the next 2 weeks?
No, I think Bill O'Brien believes in Tom Savage. I think before the season started, he was the reason why they wanted to place Tom Savage. To start the year, week 1. So I don't know. I think Bill O'Brien believes in him. Thinks he can do. I mean, if you look at just the final 5 to 7 minutes of the fourth quarter, Tom Savage looked pretty good. I mean, in the fourth quarter, I think he was 6 for 6. Going down the stretch. So he has shown some flashes, but it's just not a consistent thing week in, week out that you want to rely on him or his targets unless it's DeAndre Hopkins. That's the only guy on Houston I would touch.
Is he completely droppable, Orlando?
No, I don't think he's completely droppable, but I think going back to what Dan said, I mean, I think you got to see what's on, there's any options better on the waiver, which I'm assuming there is in a 10-team league. But other than that, I wouldn't just drop Will Fuller. But it was good seeing Tom Savage, kind of not be that guy we saw in week 1 who got benched for Deshaun Watson. He was targeting Hopkins a bit. I know it wasn't Fuller, but I wouldn't drop him.
Yeah,
now without trying to get something in return.
Right, and that's exactly what I was saying. Fish it,
The thing is, more than likely, you're gonna have to either package him or see what's better available because his stock is just pummeled down to where you're basically not going to get anything for him if you're just trying to trade him straight up for someone.
Right. So, good question though. Yeah, this one still hurts me. It hurts me because Deshaun Watson was my ticket to any kind of comeback. Now, if he was playing last week, Dan, you was toast. You know that. Big time. I know. It's all right. Rick Gold, appreciate the question. So, next one, a real simple question here. Comes from Nick Politano. Should I trade T.Y. Hilton for Kelvin Benjamin? We'll swing it back around. Orlando, you go first this time.
Hell no. I mean, I wouldn't. Maybe it's not such a bad move. But only because we've seen Tyrod Taylor be able to deliver the deep ball to Sammy Watkins when he was there. So, that's possible. And Benjamin has been somewhat of a deep threat when he was in Carolina. But no, I wouldn't do this trade. T.Y. Hilton, I know he's not as consistent. He has his big games here and there, and it's kind of hard to predict. But Jacoby Brissett now with Andrew Luck now playing the season on IR, Jacoby Brissett is a viable quarterback. He knows who his man is, and with Jack Doyle and T.Y. Hilton, so I wouldn't trade them straight up. I'd hang on to T.Y. Hilton over Kelvin Benjamin.
Sounded pretty confident, Dan.
Yeah, I'm right there with him. Basically, I mean, look at it this way: Brissett, we know now, is the quarterback. He was traded right before the season started, so he didn't get to work with Ty. Build the chemistry. And now, over the first 8 to 10 weeks, we've kind of see them get on the same page a little bit more often. He obviously had a monster game last week, so I think they're building that type of rapport. Where Kelvin Benjamin just got traded last week, he's just learning the Bills system. So he still has to build that chemistry with Tyrod Taylor, which it's kind of asking a lot because Tyrod doesn't build anything with anybody unless it's a check down. So who do you basically trust more, Jacoby Brissett or Tyrod Taylor? I'm going Brissett. And then in the system-wise, it just makes more sense. Hilton's going to be more comfortable in that Cole system rather than Benjamin moving to a new Bills system, in a week's time. So definitely stay with Hilton.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with Orlando because the very first answer to this question was hell no. No, not at all. The numbers aren't even actually close to me. And here's the thing. You guys, mentioned it. Dan just mentioned the new team getting acclimated with Tyrod. I mean, all that is really regardless. He went to me personally, a worse quarterback situation. So it's not getting much better even on a good day. And the ceiling is just so much higher for T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton's good days are around 35, 36 points. And I think Kelvin Benjamin's good days are around 16, 19 points. So the numbers just don't add up to me. So I would definitely not make that move. And I don't know. I agree with Dan about Jacoby Brissett. Brissett finally, he is the quarterback now, so he doesn't have to be looking over his shoulder and wondering when he's going to be benched in favor of Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's gone, so Brissett maybe can settle into his role now. But T.Y.'s that deep threat, man. He burns folks, and as long as you can sling it, you can throw him touchdowns. That's what he does. He burns you deep. So, no, not really a big fan of Kelvin Benjamin. Nick Politano. So I'm not sure if you're looking to actively seek that trade.
Hopefully he didn't hit accept before he.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe he's the one that initiated the trade. I don't know. We don't know.
Maybe he's a Bills fan. Maybe he's one of Ryan's buddies.
Bills fans are known for making rash decisions.
I'm just saying. I don't know if he is, but hopefully he didn't hit accept on this trade. Yeah. Unless he's getting T.Y. Hilton, well, then of course, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. So 100% on that one. All right, the next situation we're going to talk about comes from Leon Capello, Jason Witten, or Cameron Brate. I'll let Dan go first because this must be kind of hard for you, Dan. You kind of ripped apart here.
Yeah, well, I mean, fantasy-wise, it's Cameron Brate, especially to me with Fitzpatrick playing for the Bucs in the near future. I think he's going to look to his tight ends a little bit more. He has seemed to develop a rapport when he came in relief. He looked to Brate as that safety blanket. And just the numbers over the last 6 weeks, I mean, Cameron Brate has dominated Jason Witten, where he's had a couple duds, one catch for 5 yards, one catch for 9 yards. He'll go without Dak actively seeking him out. Now, with Dez Bryant being a little injured, you might see some more targets come Jay Witt's way this Sunday, but I would rely and want to trust Cameron Brate a little bit more than I would Jay Witt in fantasy.
Yeah. I'll use there for Jay Witt anymore. I mean, he's not gonna perform at the volumes that he used to anymore. A lot of his little looks are going to Cole Beasley now. Little underneath looks. So the time is almost setting on Jason Witten. He's been a hell of a cowboy, but we're almost to that point. Cameron Brate is the future. He's the big stud, and he'll be getting a lot of attention whether he stays in Tampa Bay or not in the future. So ceiling is much, 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 much higher for Cameron Brate for sure. Orlando, Cowboy man, he's a Cowboy man, but Cameron Brate?
No, same reason in fantasy. It's Cameron Brate. Again, this is a guy Winston loves to target, and even if it's Patrick playing for Winston, it's going to be the same thing. So in fantasy, yeah, I'm taking Cameron Brate.
Yep, we all agree. That settles that, Liam Capello. Appreciate it. All right. Let's move on to the next NFL question. Comes from Jamie Garcia. And, all right, let me see how to phrase this. Jamie Garcia. What's your opinions on mother flipping Dede Westbrook? Dan, would you mind going?
I was high on him coming into the year. Obviously, he spent time on IR, getting hurt in training camp, and missing, the first 10 weeks of action, 9 weeks. I liked him as an NFL prospect. He's a guy who in his Oklahoma career, I think averaged 25 or more yards per catch, which is insane on the amount of catches he's had. So he's definitely a solid player. The biggest thing, if you're looking fantasy outlook this season, how much do you trust Blake Bortles? Because it's going to be him that has to get him the ball. So I would go in with tempered expectations. I wouldn't expect too much, but he can be a nice complement outside. A Marquise Lee, and some of their other weapons on the outside. So
yeah. Can I go real quick then? Because that ties in perfectly, because as an Allen Hurns owner, then I will just tell you that Dede is actually third string right now as far as the wide receiver depth chart goes for the Jags, okay, with, as Dan said, Blake Bortles at quarterback. So Allen Hurns is technically listed as the number one guy. Marquise Lee's really outperformed him, but Allen Hurns is right there, especially when the other Allen, who's the other Allen? Hadn't he played all year and went down. Then Hurns is supposed to be the man. And there's not a week that goes by where I'm thinking about starting him, Dan. I mean, would you? I mean, I'm not even thinking about starting Allen Hurns. I don't know if you probably hadn't noticed or kept up with that, but I've held on to Allen Hurns, but I hadn't played him like 1 week since early on. And so that's just how little confidence that I have in the Jags offense, period. It just is not working. And I think they're letting us down a little bit more other than that defense this year, Dan. The defense is killing. I got them.
Congratulations there. They're your biggest offensive threat, your defense. And your kicker. Your defense and your kicker are your two best players. You got them.
I'm not even going to argue, because that probably is close to the truth. If outside of Deshaun Watson, who is no longer playing this year. Orlando, what you think? Dede Westbrook?
Yeah, I'm probably not touching him unless it's a deeper league. I mean, you look at Blake Bortles' stats again with down seeing. It's how much you depend on Bortles. He's only threw for over 300 yards once. And actually, Bortles has been okay, but he doesn't have to throw as much. You got Leonard Fournette and the running backs there and the defense. So, again, it comes down to them just not being a pass-first offense. They're a run-first offense. So, with Westbrook coming in and him missing out on the action, I don't think he's going to make an impact right away, especially when the Jags are already pretty conservative in the passing game.
Yeah, and I did check. He is actually available in our league. I don't know that anyone is it really even considering grabbing him for whatever reason. I don't know, possibly. But as of this afternoon, he's available in our league. So if you really, really want him, so that's it as far as the NFL questions this week, guys. That last one was Jamie Garcia. Thanks for cleaning that up for us. A very enthusiastic Dede Westbrook fan is all I can tell. Where did he play? Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, maybe that's a big-time Sooners fan or something. All right, so what we're going to do next is move right on into NBA and talk about some NBA and maybe our fantasy league, what's going on there, and who's top dog for real, despite the lies you may have heard earlier on this podcast, and answer NBA mailbag questions. We'll do that next. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Thanks. MyFantasySportsTalk.com, WBLZSports.com. Check us out on YouTube, which many of you did last week, and we appreciate that. Facebook's big. So check us out on Facebook or Twitter or at the Twitter. Any method you want. So, NBA. Orlando, Dan has already proclaimed himself the NBA fantasy champion for the second year in a row, I guess. I guess he knows. Someone didn't tell him that he's already got a loss.
Yeah, no. I think Dan's just ready to shut everybody out. I mean, I can't say nothing. I had a rough going to get him this past week, but I am 2-1 in that league, so I got a little room to talk. I know it's still early. I'm not completely at the bottom of the barrel, but to say he's just going to be crowned champion, I won't say that right away. But I will say, Dan. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, pretty solid roster. I will say that. I mean, he really got 543 points on, against Dylan. But then again, Dylan probably didn't start some of his guys, so I don't know what to say about Dylan there.
It's okay. I do have the best roster. Thank you, Orlando. And I can proclaim it because, I mean, if you see the domination that I'm doing right now, New Breed, you don't want to play me because you'd be going down.
You don't want to play me. I'm not scared of anybody. I'm the undefeated team here. I'm probably not going to lose a game.
Well, if you played me either of the 3 weeks, you'd have lost.
You already got a loss. I don't. So I don't know how you're dominating.
Ooh. Because I'm scoring hundreds of more points than everybody else.
Except for that one person out of the 3 you've played.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But if you add it all up, hundreds higher.
I'll be honest with you. The first or second week, I didn't even set my lineup the rest of the weekend because I was up by 1,000.
Well, it sounds like you need to be committed, and you're not. So...
Man, I got the best roster, man. I'm sorry. You need to study the league. I got the best roster. I got Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's averaging like 70 for me.
Yeah, but now that with this trade, his value is going to go.
Eric Bledsoe better not screw this up.
He's screwing it all up. Just like he screwed up the Suns.
We're going to have Eric Bledsoe questions real soon if this thing goes south. I'll promise you.
We already do.
Okay. Where are we? Are we talking NBA? Okay, so the first question comes from Dave Lax. And this is a good one because I'm not sure none of us have really even talked about this. Thoughts on the Bledsoe-Monroe trade, good or bad for either team? Go ahead, Dan. I want to know your opinion real quick.
I mean, I kind of like it for both teams. I think it was a pretty fair deal. I mean, for the Suns to be able to get, not only Greg Monroe, but I look at that first-round pick as probably more valuable than Greg Monroe. But you're getting that from a guy who was basically a cancer. I mean, he was a guy who wasn't going to play for the team anymore. Was shunned from the facility, from the team, suspended indefinitely. So for the Suns to be able to turn around and get a profit for him, I like it.
Great point. So how does that benefit the Bucks?
The Bucks needed a point guard. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon is your starting point guard. He's not a point guard. I mean, he's a defensive specialist who can give you something on offense, but he's not your main ball handler that you want to go with your offense. Obviously, you had the Greek Freak do a lot of that, but they still needed a point guard, and Bledsoe filled that hole. Where now they kind of have a 1-2 punch offensively. Bledsoe can drive the lane. And you still have Antetokounmpo, Greek Freak there, and the shooters like Chris Middleton on the outside that you can kick it out to.
Well, see, I guess I'm disagreeing with you as far as what they gave up. The Bucks gave up way too much. They gave up Monroe, which was their most experienced big man. I know he's not putting up big production, but he's one of the most experienced big men they have. A clog in the middle. And a first and a second round pick for Eric Bledsoe. So here's the world I'm living in. Are people making up their own memories of Eric Bledsoe? Eric Bledsoe's not that good. We're talking about the same guy who's been in the league for 8 years and his career average is 13-4. He ain't worth a first round pick, much less Greg Monroe a first and a second. Maybe the Bucks needed to shore up with some talent, and maybe they needed a point guard and take some of those duties off Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I like what Giannis Antetokounmpo's doing. Let's do that. And if you're going to spend that kind of money and talent in picks and future away, then do it for maybe a replacement for Greg Monroe, a bigger piece than Greg Monroe, or maybe another wing shooter, something like that you need in today's NBA, a poor man's Kevin Durant or something like that. You don't do it for Eric Bledsoe. Am I crazy? Orlando, is Eric Bledsoe got that much value?
Well, I see your point. Maybe if he's going to a bigger market, being that he went to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's not really a place to land big free agents. So they got a guy like Bledsoe. I could certainly see why they do something like that. They're one of those teams that kind of have to build the team through the draft. They're going to sign some key guys, but they're not going to get the big names that you see in free agency. So to get a guy like Bledsoe, I see why.
So why trade away a first and a second round pick? That's even further piles on top of that argument.
I think they just wanted to change things up. I get it. A first and second round pick. They're trying. And like Dan mentioned earlier, I kind of like it. I do like it for both teams, but I want to see how the Bucks handle it because without Giannis on the floor sometimes, the Bucks kind of look like they don't know what to run. They depend on him a lot. I want to see what they're able to do with Bledsoe. I mean, he could easily turn around and they get snake bitten by this. But ultimately, I want to see, how it works out. Bledsoe, I know he's been in the league forever, but, so he's still relatively young. He's going in a new system. So, hopefully he could turn it around in Milwaukee because they're one of those young and upcoming teams in the East. So, hopefully it works out for them.
And then I didn't even mention what Dan mentioned before about the cancer in the locker room and then what you just said, Orlando, about it coming back and possibly biting you. I didn't even mention that. That's just another added layer to it. I hate the fact that they gave up so much. He's not worth the first round pick, much less. Okay, Greg Monroe and maybe the second. Okay, I'm letting that go without raising an eyebrow. But a player in a first, a second round pick for Eric Bledsoe. And I was astonished when I looked at the numbers because I thought his career numbers would have actually been better than what they are. But it was not good. It's not great. So, but
I think if you're the Bucks, you also have Jabari Parker coming back off that ACL injury. So he's gonna be a 4, a 3 to a 4. So he's gonna take some of Greg Monroe's minutes. You still have John Henson there, so you still have some big. I think they had a load of front court players. So
they're relying on. I guess Thon Maker is going to be their top center.
Yeah, he's their starter, anyways. So I get it from the Bucks' perspective, and not only that, but Monroe had a high salary, so they unload that from the books as well. So I think the Bucks want to secure a top 4 seed, and they're determined to do so. And I think ultimately this Bledsoe trade makes them a better ball club and a more legitimate threat in that Eastern Conference that really only has Boston, Cleveland, Washington, and then that's basically it. So if you can compete with one of those, and you have the next LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. So
I hope Eric Bledsoe doesn't run him out of town.
You just better hope that his fantasy value stays where it's at, because if you get it, don't score as many points on a weekly basis with the Greek Freak doing that, what are you going to do now that Bledsoe's there? That's hard.
So, and I forgot at the moment, but Dellavedova, man, I would rather run Dellavedova as my backup point guard than to give all that up for Eric Bledsoe. I'm staying put. Man, I don't like that. I don't really like that. We'll see. Just don't mess with my value. Of Giannis. But damn, do you think he's going to mess up in the locker room, Dan?
I think he's probably happy to be out of Phoenix and
in Milwaukee.
Yeah, but I think if you're an NBA player, you're going to, Milwaukee, but you're going to a club that not only has a winning record, a chance to compete in the playoffs, but the biggest thing is Jason Kidd. I mean, if you're an NBA player, you want to play for Jason Kidd. He's still, he understands the game. He understands how to talk to players. He's a player's coach. And I think when you're a player, no matter, you go from Phoenix, so that losing situation, to Milwaukee, I think you're going to kind of go in with a positive attitude and do anything that you can to help that team win.
Yep. Well, I guess. But that last question was from Dave Lax. Appreciate it. We'll see what happens to the Bucks. I'm not liking it for the Bucks just for what they gave up. So we'll see what happens. The next one comes from Dong Yu. I was offered this trade. Dong you. That sounds like something I was saying Sunday when Dan was finally beating me. I'm like, dong you,
What
Sean.
is that? Is
Dong
that
you,
the
Dan.
Chargers ex kicker?
No, that was I can't say it. I'll
Young
slip up.
who I don't know. He experienced some glory because he was on my fantasy team for a little while. So that's what that's what his life accomplishment.
That was his highlight of his career.
Yep,
Playing
he was
for
on
the
Romo the
dynasty.
dog.
Man, you've had bad luck with kickers this year, Dan. That's just silly. It's just silly the bad luck you've had with kickers. Tried to offer you Mike Nugent. You wouldn't go for it. I mean, come on now. Evan Ingram for Mike Nugent. It's a no-brainer. Dong you. I was offered this trade. Do I accept? I give up Pau Gasol, CJ McCollum, and Dirk for Mike Conley and Serge Ibaka. This is a 14-team head-to-head category league. That's a tough league. And I'm not going to lie to you and say I know a whole lot about category leagues, never played in it, but I understand the concept. So I'll go real quick because I'm saying hell no. CJ McCollum is the most valuable player on this whole list, and Orlando can attest to Pau Gasol's production lately, at least from a fantasy standpoint. He's been killing Ibaka anyway. And then Dirk is just bonus, whatever he's got left. But you're giving up three guys, and the combination right now, as it stands, if this kind of production maintains, the combo of Gasol and McCollum is going to kill Conley. So I'll tell you this about Conley: when the Grizzlies do fully get healthy, he's not going to be that every night killer. He's just not going to have to do that much of the scoring. You've seen Tyreke Evans. Me and Dan were talking about this before the podcast. Tyreke Evans is playing like a scoring machine out there, just going to the hole and scoring buckets on Dan's fantasy team. So I think Mike Conley's value may not quite be what you think it's going to be in the future. So, man, I'm not getting rid of McCollum, Dan. No, not for that trade scenario.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw this, I was like, okay, I'm probably going to lean Conley Ibaka, and then I looked at the actual numbers, and I mean, when did Pau Gasol get out of the retirement home and start putting up some baskets? And not only that, but he's rebounding 8 rebounds a game, 4 assists. I mean,
Kawhi Leonard isn't playing. That's one.
Yeah,
and Rudy Gay is shooting.
Orlando's gonna have to fill me in here because I mean, Pau looks like last year, like he just wanted to warm up a nice tall glass of milk, read a book, get a blankie on, and go take a nap. But I mean, this year he's actually coming out like, holy crap, Mark is tearing it up in Memphis. Maybe I got to do something. But yeah, I mean, looking at their numbers, it's hands down. You keep with what you got here, 3 versus 2. You keep your 3 because honestly, I mean, even Dirk is putting up some numbers. I've seen some stuff that Dallas fans aren't happy that Dirk is actually getting the amount of minutes he is over Nerlens Noel to start the year, but. He's putting up 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. So
I've noticed that too over New Orleans. I keep wondering why Nerlens Noel is not getting a little bit more minutes. I think he may have been getting more minutes last year than this year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of surprising, but Dirk is getting some run. I don't know if they want him to, break some records, get in the history books some more, but I'm keeping with what you got. Conley's kind of been a down year so far. I mean, when you look at across the board, I mean, he's only averaging 4 assists. I think that's kind of low for Mike Conley. He's kind of a guy that
the fantasy numbers have been steady, 30 to 40 generally, in our league anyway.
Yeah, but I mean,
but like I said,
I expected more from that. I've been playing Mike Conley on a lot of daily fantasy, and I've been actually kind of unimpressed with what he's delivered.
Good value for a reason, huh?
Yeah. So I mean, for this trade, definitely keep with what you got. Don't go trading that away.
Orlando, what you think? Again, yeah, man, McCollum's a beast right now, dude. I wouldn't trade that away for those guys.
Yeah, no, same thing. I wouldn't do that trade at all. Yeah, not at all. Just history players for what he's got. Those 3 consistent players over his. I'm not doing that trade at all for the exact same reason y'all mentioned on. I wouldn't do that trade. I'd hold on to what I got.
Or is Pau getting a lot more run this year with Kawhi out rather than last year? Is that why his numbers look so good? Because I was astonished when I saw that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, it's been a little bit rejuvenated. I mean, even with LaMarcus Aldridge, I don't know what Pop did to them behind closed doors. He had to talk with them. I don't know exactly what it was. But both guys, you look at last year, and there's just no energy. The look on their faces. Paul Gasol, look, he's just like he was about retired too. And I mean, hell, even Ginobili, he dropped 19 points last night against the Clippers. He's been doing pretty good lately too. So I don't know what. It's been pretty good. It's been off and on. I know we had lost like 3-4 straight without Kawhi. So yeah, these guys have been needing to step up, and that's why you see Gasol's numbers been up. But he's been playing with a lot more energy compared to what he did last season.
So, Dan, does the fact that this is a head-to-head category league change the opinion possibly at all? I don't think so. I just think what McCollum brings across the board is going to be more valuable than the other combo. So, regardless of the kind of league. But I've never played a category league.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, having that category league, it might even favor Powell, McCollum, and Dirk as well, because they're, like I said, with Powell putting up, high numbers of rebounds. He's averaging 4 assists a game. Pau Gasol. I mean, not only that, but a lot of category leagues go off of shooting percentage. So Powell and Dirk are going to have high percentages. Being close to the basket, 50 to 60% consistently, and they shoot the threes. So you're getting a full range of that category league with those 3 players. McCollum as well. So I think it being a category league even helps the players that you already have on your roster.
Yeah, I don't see how that possibly could change much at all, regardless. Orlando, have you played a category league before?
I think probably just in daily. And season long, though, in daily, yes. But even in category and head-to-head, I wouldn't do this trade. I hang on to what he has. This just favors him in every way. So, no, I wouldn't even second guess that chance, that trade.
Dan, have you played the new way to play daily fantasy? And no, I'm not cutting a promo here. I'm genuinely asking a question. Have you played the new way to play on daily fantasy NBA, the Pick'em style game?
No, I haven't done that.
Really?
I actually don't know about it.
Orlando, have you?
Yeah, where they're all categorized.
Yeah, it's different tiers. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, different tiers.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool and it's fast.
It is fast. Yeah, I have no idea how the scheme works though. I don't know. The math of it seems a little sketchy to me. I don't know. It just seems like you'd have a lot of the same combinations if the same guys are picked, which is somewhat possible. But anyway, the way it works, Dan, is just, it's 8 tiers. So you basically get 8 players to choose from, but they give you a list of only 4 or 5, and you got to pick which one you want through each of those tiers. So
what I like is it helps you budget a little bit more because they're already categorized by tiers.
It's automatically budgeted for you. You don't get a choice, So one tier, Dan, may be third, fourth tier or caliber type players, or say like the $4,000 or $5,000 players, range on daily fantasy. So in one tier, that's what you got to choose from. On the other tier, it may be Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or James Harden. So yeah, you just have to pick. So it's pretty cool. You should check it out. But it depends on the game, man. But I know McCollum went off last night on my Grizzlies. Dan, did you catch that game at all? I know you're probably busy watching the Ric Flair documentary. Orlando, I know you're watching the Ric Flair documentary, right?
I didn't get to, but I do have a DVR. It's like you read my mind though, because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing tonight around in a little bit.
Yep. The Ric Flair 30 for 30. But Dan, did you see that at all? It was a pretty exciting game. The Grizzlies almost pulled another Grizzlies last night and ended up losing, but your boy Tyreek saved the day again.
I didn't watch that game. I watched the New York Knicks have an epic comeback against the Hornets, an 18-4 run to end the game to beat the Hornets by 5. So that's what I was watching.
Your trash talking days are over. A win over the Grizzlies does not make a loss to the Knicks. I'm sorry. Ultimate shame.
Yeah, I will tell you this. Porzingis is it's his team. He is the Knicks now, so the dude's going to be special now that he is given full autonomy on that team. Everybody's looking to him to do it. So,
Dan, if I had to aggressively try to pursue a trade, there's one guy I want in our league to maybe try to pursue a trade for. It's probably Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, just seeing how he plays from inside the basket, close to the rim, to outside, he can shoot the 3, block shots, rebound, assist. He does it all, and it was hurtful because he beat the Hornets after they had a pretty commanding lead basically the entire night. But they got the W, and it was a little embarrassing.
Grizzlies just kind of hanging in there. Did pick up the 1-point win against Portland on the road, though. It's been a long West Coast trip. I don't understand. It's like, every time I brag on them, they drop one. It's like you beat the Clippers, but you lose to the Lakers. It's hard.
And the Hornets. They lost to the Hornets.
And the Magic and the Mavericks, the winless Mavericks at 0-4. So after just beating Golden State and Houston twice, then you lose to the winless Mavericks. I don't know. I guess a lot of chemistry still being worked out there on the Grizzlies, I guess. But what's your official report from San Antonio right now, Orlando, on those Spurs?
It's been a little off and on. We're still without Kawhi. I guess it was a little more serious. Pop just holding on steady to him. There's some speculation that, and again, it's just speculation. None of it, I don't know. None of it doesn't mean necessarily it's true that Pop wants these guys to learn how to play and win without Kawhi. Looking back to the way last postseason ended, because they did rely heavily on him. But at the end of the day, they've gotten into a bit of a rocky start, losing some like 3 or 4 games consistently. But you have seen some better play, and obviously they still got some ball movement. So I think at the end the Spurs will still be there. The Spurs will still be the Spurs, and I'd rather have Kawhi sit out. This is a serious matter for to come back healthy when we really do need him at that full strength.
So what are they in the standings right now anyway?
Let me pull up their standings. I know they had to take a bit of a drop because they had opened the season 3-0, and then they just dropped 4 straight on their road trip. So,
and the way, if you don't check these standings daily, the way the crazy as the NBA season has been, then you never know. Buzz.
Yeah, I think they were right with Memphis, right?
Man, Boston is killing y'all. 9-2 are the Celtics.
And they started out 0-2, so they're on a 9-game win streak there.
Getting used to life without Gordon Hayward, I guess. Rockets, Warriors are both
7-4.
Yeah, and right below the Memphis Grizzlies. Look at that. 8-3 are the Rockets and the Warriors. It's starting to settle itself out, guys. And then Dan's Minnesota Timberwolves, 7-3, looking good. But then right there's the
Grizzlies. Everybody's basically a game behind. So yeah.
Where are them Thunder at? Mm-hmm.
Damn, they're way down there.
7. Wow.
DDT, where are you at? And Newbury, don't think I don't remember that top 4. That top 4 projection.
Oh, it's still way early. We're talking about less than 10 games.
No, I mean, I'll be surprised if they make the playoffs.
Seriously. Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. I'll be really surprised if the Clippers and the Nuggets make the playoffs. Where are you at on them Clippers, Dan?
2 teams that in our preseason projections, I had them making the playoffs. Both of those teams. So I still expect them to.
I expect the Clippers to keep sliding. Damn, they were just like 5-2. Wow. Okay. Yeah, they've lost 3 in a row. Sure enough. So, but anyway, yeah, East, Boston is killing. Detroit 7-3. Nice. Orlando, Toronto, and the New York Knicks are 6-4. So not really just a terrible team that beat your Hornets, Dan. They're playing well, and Chris, like you said, Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, I mean, he had back-to-back games where he had career highs. I think he had 38, and then he followed that up with 40. So, like I said, it's his team now with Carmelo gone, and Jeff Hornacek is putting them in the right offensive game plan to be successful.
You guys know who's battling it out for that 8th spot in the East right now?
Cleveland, right? Cleveland's down there.
You are correct, sir. You are correct, sir. Along with your Hornets and the Heat and the Bucks. Wow. I don't know what to say.
It's still early. I will say it's still early. It's still a lot of basketball, but yeah, the fact that the Cavs have just been struggling, it's crazy. But
definitely,
yeah. And the Celtics are too. Yeah, no, they've been doing pretty good without Gordon Hayward. I mean, they had to adapt pretty quickly. I don't want to say nothing bad about Gordon Hayward. Like, it's not glad for it. I know they're not glad for it, but they better have it better that it happened in the regular season rather than happen in the midseason and towards playoff time where they have to completely change the chemistry. So, that was something that they were able to overcome quickly.
Well, check this out, guys. This is just kind of weird, and I don't have an explanation for it. Maybe Dan, you can give me a theory. Orlando, you can give me a theory. The Celtics are 6-1 on the road. 7 of those 13 games have been on the road. They're 6-1. How does that? That's by far the best road record in the NBA, as far as I can see down the list right now. I mean, how does that happen? What is it about them that are so good on the road?
Road records, I always look to the coach. So Brad Stevens, probably good coaching, getting his team fired up and don't lollygag it at all earlier in the season on the road. So to me, that's good coaching. All
right. Well, then some other good coaches then. You must like D'Antoni because the Rockets are 6-1 on the road as well. They're 8-3 and 6-1 overall on the road. And I guess you like Steve Kerr because the Warriors are 8-3 overall as well and 5-1 on the road. Those are your top 3 road. That's kind of a sign of those are the top teams, right? Or at least the most comfortable to perform on a nightly basis right now. If you got road records that are that good.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt.
All right, guys.
It's always been a pretty good war team.
The Warriors have just been a great team, period, lately. They ain't losing but like 10, 12 games a year, so some of them might be on the road, some of them might not be. But it's crazy because those 2 teams are actually struggling a little bit at home with Houston 2-2 at home and 3-2 at home for the Warriors. So interesting basketball season. I don't know if it could be more interesting and crazy than the football season. The NFL season has been this year, but NBA season is been a little bit crazy start as well. So we'll talk more about it next week. Keep the questions coming, guys. But right now, we mentioned some of it. It's going to be coming up this weekend, college basketball kickoff. Stay tuned to myfantasysportstalk.com for all the college basketball coverage starting up. But other than that, what else is going on the website, Dan?
Entertainment section as usual. I actually wrote an entertainment article for that section over the weekend talking about House of Cards, one of my favorite shows, and the likelihood of it continuing past the 6th season doesn't look good, with all the Kevin Spacey drama that's going on right now. So the House of Cards future is in jeopardy. College basketball, like you said, coming out. I'll be covering Canisius Golden Griffins again. They open up Saturday against University of Buffalo, their crosstown rival. 1 p.m. is their game, so I'll be there covering that. And then moving forward the rest of the year. So college basketball, fantasy football, our picks. Sadly, guys, you guys know I'm good at everything I do. Everything, fantasy football, fantasy basketball, yeah. But I let you guys down in the NFL Pick'em, and it's going to be a battle of you two for the championship. So it's good to see some fresh faces up there in that Pick'em because you guys, for those who don't know, we have a weekly Pick'em piece. It's on the site. Our Thursday picks are out right now, but we pick all the games every week, and I've failed this year, and it's Brandon and Orlando's race to the finish.
It's been a crazy year, though. I mean, it's just been difficult because I'm not proud of my record either. I just happen to be winning right now, but it's just been a crazy, crazy year.
It's been those Thursday night games that have really been killing us.
Yeah, I think every single one of us. My Thursday night record is not good. How many have there been? 8? 8? Has it been 8 of them, 7 or 8 of them? And I think I've won maybe 2. Crazy. So, but that going on the website. Something else, Dan, I forgot about that I actually put to the website and published to the website was you didn't want to talk about the Ball family tonight?
No, I was going to leave that. One of the questions that was submitted to us was big baller burglary, and it was just a statement like that. That didn't make the show until it just did. But I was hoping to skate by without mentioning that.
How about Big Bail brand?
Uh-huh.
You like that one? Is it too
soon?
Out
on mail, so yes, I do like it.
So, but anyway, the story goes is LiAngelo Ball and 2 of his teammates were arrested in China for shoplifting at a Louis Vuitton store. And apparently China takes that stuff seriously.
Yes, they do.
3 to 10 years?
Yeah, and I mean, from what I heard today, reports out that they're not even going to be able to travel back with the team. Those three are going to be stuck in China for at least 2 to 3 months, is what I saw today, which is crazy. Like, I mean, that's their basketball season. It starts Friday. I know LiAngelo really isn't a basketball player. He's there because of the other 2 Ball brothers. So they gave him that wannabe commitment. I think he was even redshirting, or he redshirted last year or something. But he's not good. But for the other 2, I mean, they're going to be stuck in China. That's crazy.
So can they play at least the one game anyway against Georgia Tech?
Well, the bottom line is LeVar is probably happy that middle one that he didn't really care about is over there, and now we can focus on Lonzo and LaMelo.
Did LeVar set it all up? Is that it? Is he trying to steal designs from Louis Vuitton and used his son as a patsy to steal the design secrets?
If that's so, it's genius. Pure genius.
Will that be on season 2 of the Facebook show or whatever they got going on?
Balling with the family.
On this week's episode of Balling with the Family, bailing out LiAngelo. All right. So anyway, but that's on the site. A lot of other stuff on the site. A lot of entertainment from the entertainment section and the sports section, and of course the podcast. Trying to entertain you guys. But that's going to do it for this one. Last words, Orlando. What up?
No, just keep putting up the pieces. I'll keep putting up the man up pieces. I'm working on Thursday night one, so it's gonna be another late one. I've been busy, but the one for the weekend games I should have out on time, and it's been great. I gotta give a shout out to the articles too, because on a quick note, the other day I visited the entertainment site and I literally lost probably like an hour just reading through the articles. It's been great. Reading all the entertainment sites, and I read some of the women in horror pieces and some of the Kevin Spacey piece, and there's a lot of great stuff out there on the sports side as well. But taking a visit over there, I just lost an hour just reading a bunch of stuff, so that's how good it is.
Yeah. Yep, definitely check it out. A lot of information and fun stuff on the website. The horror articles too, the women in horror. That's interesting. The interviews, interesting. I like that kind of stuff. But Dan, for all the new folks that watched last week, all the new folks watching right now for the first time, My Fantasy Podcast, go ahead and tell them one more time, what's the best way to get a hold of us and submit any kind of question that you want to, but try to phrase it in at least a question and not just a definitive statement.
Yeah. Our mailbag is open, Twitter, Facebook, on the site directly, but Facebook's the easiest way. My Fantasy Sports Talk, just search it. Find us on Twitter just by searching My Fantasy Sports Talk, or us individually. I'm at FF Sports Talk, at new_breed for New Breed, and I think Orlando's locked on Twitter, so you can't find him. He doesn't want you to send his hate mail directly to him, so send it to me instead, and I will put it on the site. So,
to be fair, my Twitter handle's on there, so they know where to find me.
There we go. All right. So find Orlando and send your hate mail to him as well. But bring it to us every week. We'll read it. We'll read it live on air and answer them. So fantasy related, hate related, college basketball related, anything, we'll talk about it. And I look forward to our new audience. The type of questions that we get.
Definitely. It's going to be fun as this thing expands and bring in a new audience. So appreciate all you guys, all you first-time listeners and watchers last week. And thank you for no matter how you catch up with the podcast each and every week, whether it be on the website myfantasysportstalk.com, whether it be on WBLZsports.com, whether it be on YouTube, iTunes, however you watch us. Just appreciate you for clicking and watching and listening. So for Dan Chalk and Orlando Torres, I am Brandon Reed. Until next week, we'll see you then. Woo!